Joining us now is the founder and CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, Imran Ahmed. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it. So a perfect example of the problem at hand is those fake robocalls. You just heard the one in New Hampshire claiming to be President Biden last January. These are all fake. So given that, how dangerous will AI voice cloning be during the upcoming election?
Well, we simply have no way of telling how the enemies of democracy, whether that is foreign states who want to interfere with our democratic elections, or it is domestic extremists who may wish to use illegitimate tactics in order to change the outcome of the election, may weaponize these technologies that are available to anyone to use for free, and that, as our report shows, simply do not have sufficient guardrails to ensure that they're not being abused by bad actors to create incredibly compelling and authentic sounding clones of the voices of the most senior politicians in democratic elections, not just in the United States, but in the United Kingdom and around the world. We tested them in various different jurisdictions. 80% of the time, they produced convincing facsimiles of those voices.
How easy or difficult is it to make one of these?
I mean, remarkably easy. In some instances, there was a degree of, manipulation that we had to do. So, I mean, in very few instances where we had to, for example, provide a sample of that person speaking a phrase that was dictated to us. But what we did was use another AI platform to produce that sample to then fool the original AI platform. So it's remarkably simple to do so. And in fact, on some of the platforms, you didn't even have to write a script. You just told it what you wanted it to do, and then it would actually produce you a script, deliver it. In the instance of, for example, with President Biden, it would even insert the stutter that President Biden has and that he's overcome into his delivery of the comments. I mean, it really is quite authentic sounding. And whereas if I showed you one of those clips, you might just kind of go, well, it might be fake, it might be real, I'm not sure. If you're receiving it on a phone line, for example, or if you're seeing it on social media without any context and someone's saying to you, God, this is really happening, you might think, you'd be much more likely to think that it was real.
Just goes to show you how detailed it gets if they're also including the president's stutter in there. If I'm scrolling through my social media feed at home and I'm looking at a speech that I think is a little bit questionable, what are some signs that I should look for to distinguish, this thing might not be real?
Well, look, I'd like to give you a comforting answer here. There isn't one. And that's the truth, is that this technology's been around for some time now. AI companies have been into Congress, they've been into leadership to see, both parties, they've been into the White House to talk about how they're going to put in place guardrails, how they're not going to make the mistakes of social media companies who never thought about safety or our democracy. They just wanted to launch and make as much money as possible. They said, we're different. Turns out they're not. And the truth is that they could do something immediately to help us to be able to discern truth from fake by, for example, inserting a watermark into either the data or the audio stream itself. Or they could have a transparent library of everything they've produced so that we can go and check whether or not an audio clip was actually one that's in the library of one of these AI platforms. We want these break glass measures, these emergency measures to protect the integrity of our democracy and our elections, because we know that audio has actually changed election cycles. I can think, for example, of the tape of President Trump on the bus talking about women in a pejorative way.
Right.
And in other countries, audio has significantly affected elections. So we know that this can cause, real ructions. I mean, sort of can change the outcome, can change the way that an election goes. But we haven't put the guardrails in place. And I think it's time that we have these emergency transparency measures from these companies so that we can tell the truth from fake. Because otherwise, what are we making our decision based on?
Imran Ahmed, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.